There was an entire media organization designed to bend reality, to manipulate facts, to maintain power.
And Donald Trump, as we know, has put, the Prime Minister just said, unjustified tariffs on what we build, on what we sell, on how we make a living.
Welcome to the channel. I'm Doug TenNapel. You found the right place where we do a little bit of news each day. We're going to go into Jon Stewart mocking mainstream media about the big deal they're doing over Hungarian state media preferring one candidate over another. Watch this.
So you're saying if you have a media machine that purposefully lies to its people to maintain a political fiction and get themselves power, that is the hallmark of an authoritarian system, not a democratic system.
Absolutely.
Well, if we were ever to get something like that in the United States, we would be horrified, furious. To know that there was an entire media organization designed to bend reality, to manipulate facts, to maintain power, it would, if I may, and I'm not trying to slam Hungary, it would never happen in the United States.
He's making fun of our mainstream media helping Biden. This is brilliant. And he's going to get her to nod, meaning the Democrat Party is worse than Hungarian media as far as propaganda goes. You go, it'd be the end. That would never happen in the United States. He's, of course, making fun of her. This is great stuff from Jon Stewart.
It's just not, I almost can't even conjure it, imagine it. It must be very difficult to live in a country where one media organization, out of whole cloth, knowingly, explicitly, maybe even in meetings behind the scenes might say, we're lying to our audience, holy shit, and then call for news people to be fired for telling the truth. I mean, if something like that happened in the United States, it would be a dark day indeed. So I appreciate you raising the alarm bells for us.
Look at that face. I love him. Man, that is good and true, but the corruption gets worse. Now, here's Jack Posobiec. This is just one tweet I'm going to show you here. This is breaking: Romanians Georgescu barred from presidential election by Central Election Bureau in the name of democracy. That's right, in the name of democracy. Here's a Romanian candidate, leans conservative, who's funding the opposition? George Soros. Okay, now let's do some ActBlue, because this is the most corrupt U.S. money laundering scam there is. This is just an article. ActBlue probes may shut down DNC money laundering. A fundraising platform is suspected of identity theft, credit card theft, and various other financial crimes. This is one that's funded by George Soros, ActBlue. Microfunding candidates. Also, Mark Elias, the lawyer, who is up against Carrie Lake and stuff, worked here at ActBlue for a while. Before the recent election, the House Committee on Oversight had accountability, asked then Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen to turn over all suspicious activity reports, SARS, suspicious activity reports regarding ActBlue. Not much happened. A suspicious activity report is a document that banks file with the Treasury Department pursuant to potentially fraudulent or illicit financial activity. Yellen stalled. This is Joe Biden's Janet Yellen, presumably in the hope that the Democrats would win the House back in November and halt the investigation. That obviously didn't happen. And the new Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent is, of course, cooperating with the committee. This may well be what precipitated the sudden departure of 7 senior officials from ActBlue in February. Last month, they all quit, all the upper management. The New York Times reports that the exodus included, quote, the Associate General Counsel, who was the highest ranking legal officer at ActBlue, the Assistant Research Director, a Human Resources official, and Chief Revenue Officer, and an engineer who had spent 16 years building and maintaining the electronic pipes through which the group's donation flow. These electronic pipes are clearly of particular interest to the chairman of the Oversight and Accountability Committee, Rep. James Comer, Republican, Kentucky. James Comer doing his good job there, who included the following forewarning in his letter to erstwhile Treasury Secretary Yellen. Recent reports have raised the specter of fraud and evasion of campaign finance law by individuals exploiting online contribution platforms, especially ActBlue. The practice is known as smurfing. Now, we covered this. This is over a year ago that we went into this. It's a type of identity theft whereby the names of small dollar donors are repeatedly used without their knowledge to manage large dollar political contributions that by law must be reported to the Federal Election Commission. So if you could get, like, say, here's $234,000 they could raise, but from 50,000 contributions. So it's getting a bunch of tiny donations, say $2 per person or $30 per person, to equal 230,000, so it flies below the radar. And this is by no means an outlier. The FEC data shows a Florida resident whose individual contributions purportedly come to 52,000 number of donations, an average of one transaction every 1.8 days, totaling $387,000. So that's what smurfing does. Now, they all step down because they're all corrupt. And money laundering is all the money went back to Democrat politicians. Guys, this is your USAID. This is what I mean by the Democrat Party was never popular. It was always held up by this kind of spam. Polish official says half of the U.S. aid to Ukraine was stolen and laundered back to Democrats. Even the money that the Democrats were trying to get to be paid to Ukraine was backwashing back into Democrat Party donations. That's why they are so corrupt. Speaking of corrupt, here's more. Here's the new Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney.
There's someone who's trying to do the opposite. There's someone who's trying to weaken our economy. Yeah.
He's going to blame Donald Trump here. So this guy took the place of Trudeau. So they still traded up. They're still choosing to go with only female leaders.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, as we know, has put, Prime Minister just said, unjustified tariffs on what we build, on what we sell, on how we make a living.
Okay, fine. Stop putting tariffs on us, including our milk, and quit exporting fentanyl. Canada, you don't want to be Mexico. By the way, that same guy, this is from another tweet. I'm just going to share this one. This is from Amuse on Mark Carney, the new head of Canada. He has never received a single vote from a single Canadian. He's never held elected office. He's a WEF globalist installed to rule Canada. Now, I also saw a picture of this Mark guy. I hate these conspiracies, but there are pictures where he was very close to that Ghislaine Maxwell chick over at Epstein, So they do have pictures of him. And I don't want to get into that conspiracy. I want to say all of this money, this campaign money that is artificially benefiting Democrats, it's over. We're cutting you off. You just need a little more time for Trump to be able to dismantle this stuff, and Doge to dismantle and expose this stuff with our brand new Department of Justice. Remember, it could take years, a lot of these actual court cases. You can't just send someone to jail. This isn't a dictatorship. You have to go through the legal process and hope you get good, solid judges looking for justice, and we can turn all this around. I'm very hopeful. It's cautious but hopeful. It'll take time. But mostly Jon Stewart exposing Democrats. We'll take a Democrat making fun of Democrats all days, guys. We want you guys to collapse. I'm Doug in Exile.